Good evening. I'm Avenella Griffith, and I'm preparing to run as an independent island-wide candidate in the next general election. Thank you for joining this broadcast. I am an independent candidate because I believe that when elected persons have won their seat in the House of Assembly, they all form the seat of the nation, which should rest on at least 3 legs, as any solid seat has that many. I hope Anguillians can see that a 3-legged seat is stronger for our island. More importantly, I am running because though I know all governments have done significant good for our island, the last decade and a half has been much to the displeasure of the one we address in our national anthem, God. The Bible says, "The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and they that dwell therein." Anguilla belongs to God and everything in it and everybody in it. He is displeased with people playing around with his property and his people. He has blessed and kept us for over a decade now. And for over a decade now, governments have been seeking to destroy the land and people with heavy taxes, casinos, seeking to legalize same-sex marriages, visionless leadership, a disregard for Anguillian morals, and a disregard for Anguillians, period. Hence, I am running to highlight the areas of our Anguillianness which need cherishing and are preserving and are advancing. I am running to offer ideas and support to making Anguilla better than I met it. I am running to work for the people of Anguilla as I did for 33 and a half years as a teacher throughout all the government schools. And seeing that I know the island and its keys pretty well, and I've lived in 4 of the 7 districts, I believe it makes me a suitable candidate to run island-wide. In making this presentation to you today, I am cognizant that I am not a full party and that my proposals would require buy-in of elected members and the people of Anguilla. But even though I may be small, I believe that small, simple things can produce beyond extraordinary results, don't you? Before jumping into the plan, I would like to show a framework which Avenella for Anguilla proposes for further discussion as we build a nation for centuries, not mere 5-year terms. First, God is our rock. Moving away from biblical principles means we would be building on sand or thin air, and when storms come, we won't stand. Into that rock, we establish our footings of a vision, mission, and motto. Without a vision, we perish. Without a mission, we do not gauge to accomplish anything. The motto we have is great, except it cannot engage with the previous 2 because they are lacking. Avenella for Anguilla puts forward that to be a tranquil nation be our vision, to live by truth and right be our mission, and that they engage our current motto of strength and endurance. Our footings would then support the floor, our constitution. From there, we run the blocks of education, laced with the motto of Anguillianness in between rows. The columns of tranquilities would tie the blocks together, and the ring beam of a beyond extraordinary healthcare system would support the roof, our economy, which then becomes the floor for the next level in our nation building. No matter how high we go, wisdom says, do not forget the rock we were built on. To introduce the wisdom plan, proposal for using the, to introduce the wisdom plan proposal for using the .ai domain revenue, I would like to point out 2 well-respected financial giants who employ the same or a slightly different strategy. First, Steve Jobs. In a nutshell, Mr. Jobs started Apple, then grew it into a company. The company began losing. The board of directors fired him. A decade later, in 1995, he was brought back on, and his fresh start, he insisted on this bold strategy. Shareholders would not be paid any dividends for 7 years. Between 1995 and 2012, Steve Jobs stood his ground against the critics and retained and saved and plowed back all profits into the company. The results? From 2013, many shareholders were made millionaires, and today, Apple has built the touchable, untouchable iPhone, and months ago, it became the very first ever trillion-dollar company. 7 years of saving fueled a trillion-dollar net worth. Even greater than Jobs was Joseph. Secular and religious history books share how Joseph saved the whole known world from starvation while making Egypt rich at the same time. This historical record says he wisely advised the saving of 1/5 of all the grain in the 7 years of good and managed its sales in the 7 years of famine. The results? While the entire world was starving, Egypt was a source of food and was maximizing profits. Avenella for Anguilla response to the .ai domain revenue is a sound strategy to save and build, stabilize and transform within 2 7-year intervals. It's been proven before, and now in our time of an unexpected influx of money, I believe it's wise. In my forthcoming presentation, I will reference numbers that have been publicly provided by Vince Cate, given that the government of Anguilla has refused to release information on the contract with Identity Digital. Special thanks to Mr. Cate for his transparency regarding the finances of .ai. He has publicly stated that he has a bank account that the government has access to view, which shows all the funds coming in from .ai. Mr. Cate has also shared that he once had full ownership of .ai, but considered it an asset of Anguilla and gave it back to the government. I believe he has displayed above and beyond transparency and Anguillianness. I would also like to highlight Mr. Linwood Bell. When I met him in the 2000s, he was exhausted from sharing with government officials for over a decade the financial ability of the domain name. No one listened to him. When he walked into the ALHCS, he excitedly shared with me his story, and I believe it was close to the 1,000th time he would have told it. He said, "In Saskatchewan, Canada, thousands of miles of prairie land sat unused for centuries. Then, in the 1970s, a mineral called potash was discovered in that territory. In actuality, it holds 1/3 of the world's potash. Canada became financially rich because potash is vital to the gadgets that Apple and all other tech giants use to produce." Mr. Bell then ended his story with a huge smile on his face and said, ".ai is Anguilla's potash." I believed him, and he could hardly believe it. It was the first time anybody did. Along with the business department, with myself as a staff rep, Mr. Bell started the .ai club, of which the honorable elected member, Joseph Antipool, was a president. It was meant to be the incubator that would sustain and keep the .ai domain in the public's eye until an artificial intelligence company like ChatGPT would come along and make it viral. This, Mr. Bell knew would happen. While he can hear, on behalf of Anguilla, Mr. Bell, I say thank you for being an economic prophet that few listened to. What you said is coming true. Thank you for believing in Anguilla when we didn't believe in ourselves. Now, here's the plan. Using 20% plus of .ai revenue, which Vince Cate says at modest projections will be $6 million US dollars per month as of April 2025, that is $72 million a year. I propose that we have a savings for the 20% plus of it over the next 7 years. As .ai hits its targets for doubling every 2 years, we can increase it upwards to 50%. The revenue could be $144 million per year by 2030. During this first 7-year period, we would save. With the extensive promotion of good health, we would stabilize through disciplined saving, build reserves, manage and pay off debts and interests. Excellent stewardship would be called for. During this time frame, intensive strategic planning would occur in areas of living healthy, revenue diversification, fishing sustainability, agri-technology, realizing food security, human capacity building, small business boom, innovative and green infrastructure. Auditing for ineffectiveness and inefficiencies in the service in the public service for the purpose of optimization would also be necessary. Plans would be made by committees. The public would be engaged. Feasibility studies carried out. The process monitored and adjusted, but all made transparent. Nearing completion of the 7 years of saving, a full project roadmap would be presented. It would be 7 years of a disciplined approach to national living, as us as a people would have to buy into this robust mindset. This unity would be remarkable and unprecedented. In the second 7 years, God's willing, we would roll out the transformation in infrastructure, economic diversification, and people empowerment, slowly at first. Starting with small business assistance, initial investments in energy transition, improving quality of health, preparatory training, etc. Then we would scale and expand the reinvestment into larger infrastructural and energy projects, tourism, technological, and housing boosts. Meanwhile, garnering and managing gains, monitoring projects execution, and we would re-examine our strategic framework for the future after that final 7 years of significantly transforming our island. This save and build plan of 2 7-year intervals would allow us to come together as one, to achieve major success, even as Jobs and Joseph achieved it on mega scales. As a community, we must educate ourselves and each other about healthy living, national, financial, and environmental stewardship, and increase our civic engagement. And one way of doing so is by openly hearing and considering ideas like these. I intend to engage in community discussions about your issues and those I have presented over the last few months. I believe we can save and build while simultaneously cherishing, preserving, and advancing Anguillaness. Let's do it, Anguilla. No matter what your party, let's together save and build. Thank you for your time.